Everyone at the dinner table laughed when he tried to humiliate me. My mom smiled, my sister giggled, and he thought he'd won. I didn't say a word. I just reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and revealed something that shocked the whole room, and changed everything they thought they knew about me. He tried to humiliate me at dinner. Everyone laughed along. I didn't snap back or yell. Instead, I calmly pulled out my phone. His grin. It faded immediately. You know that feeling when someone's trying to make you look small in front of everyone you know? When they're taking shots at you, and nobody's defending you, and you're just sitting there taking it. That was me. At my own family's dinner table. Being mocked by my sister's new boyfriend while everyone smiled and nodded like it was the most natural thing in the world. But here's the thing. He had no idea who he was messing with. None of them did. And by the time that dinner was over, their perfect little illusion was shattered. See, my family always thought I was the failure. The quiet one who never quite figured life out. They had no clue that while they were busy judging me, I'd built something they couldn't even comprehend. And when this guy, this arrogant, fake, wannabe finance bro, decided to use me as his punching bag, well, I decided it was time they all learned the truth. What happened next? Well, let me tell you the whole story. Because this isn't just about one dinner. This is about years of being underestimated. And one perfect moment of revenge. My name's Marcus. I'm 29 years old. And if I had to describe my family in one sentence, it'd be this. Image matters more than truth. I know that sounds dramatic. But hear me out. If you've ever had a mom who cared more about what the neighbors thought than your actual happiness, or a sister who could do no wrong even when she did everything wrong, you'd get it. My family isn't abusive or anything. They're just performers. Everything's about the show. Picture-perfect Christmas cards, rehearsed conversations, smiles that look borrowed from a catalog. But underneath, it's all ego, all judgment, all about keeping up appearances. I've always been the odd one out. While my sister was the pageant queen and social butterfly, I was the quiet kid who preferred building websites to making small talk at church brunches. I got a full ride to study computer science, and for 5 years after graduation, I worked on a side project I never told anyone about. Why didn't I tell them? Because they wouldn't have cared. Or worse, they would have made it about themselves somehow. Long story short, that project took off. We're talking software licensing deals, a decent exit, some smart investments. Nothing crazy like yachts or mansions, but enough that I could freelance when I wanted, travel occasionally, and live comfortably. Which was exactly what I wanted. But my family. They still thought I was figuring things out. Even after I bought a house outright, my mom would say things like, "You'll find your path eventually, sweetie." Like I was some lost puppy. Now, my sister. Her name's Rachel. She's 31, former beauty queen, studied communications, married her college sweetheart at 26. That marriage crashed and burned last year. She moved back home for a while, and that's when things got weird. Rachel went into full reinvention mode. New hair, new wardrobe, new Instagram aesthetic. And finally, a new boyfriend. His name was Tyler. Of course his name was Tyler. Tall, tan, perfectly trimmed beard. The kind of guy who probably uses the phrase, alpha energy, unironically. But here's the thing. My family absolutely loved him. My mom would gush about him like she was his publicist. "He's so successful in finance," she'd say, swirling her wine glass like she understood what that even meant. My dad, who usually stays quiet about everything, would nod and add, "He carries himself well." I met Tyler briefly at my parents' house. Just a handshake and a, "Yo, what's up, man?" But something felt off. Too polished. Too rehearsed. Rachel looked at him not with love, but like he was a trophy she wanted everyone to see. I kept my mouth shut, smiled politely, and went back to my work. I figured he'd fade out soon enough, like all her other phases. I was wrong. About a week ago, I got a text from my mom. "No, hey sweetie, No emojis. Just family dinner Sunday night. 7 p.m. Be there. Rachel's bringing Tyler. It felt less like an invitation and more like a summons. Classic mom move. No discussion, just an expectation. I thought about skipping. It's not like I'd be missed anyway. But something about the way she phrased it bothered me. Like it wasn't about spending time together. It was about me playing my role. Showing up, smiling, making them feel good about being the perfect family. Against my better judgment, I decided to go. Sunday came around. I showed up 10 minutes late, just to mess with the vibe a little. My mom answered the door, perfectly lipsticked, and gave me that look. You know the one. You're disappointing me again, look. Marcus, she sighed. We were about to start. No hug. No, good to see you. Just disappointment. I walked in. Everyone was already seated. Dad at the head of the table with his scotch. Rachel in full makeup looking like she was ready for a photo shoot. And Tyler, leaning back in his chair like he owned the place. Yo, what's up, bro? Tyler said with this huge grin. Nice of you to finally show up. I gave him a small smile. Traffic. He snorted. Right. In this town. My mom cleared her throat and motioned for me to sit, like a director pushing an actor onto stage. We made small talk for a while. Work, weather, some random relative I barely remembered. For a moment, I thought maybe this wouldn't be so bad. Then the jokes started. Tyler launched into this story about a coworker who tried to start a side business. Dude thought he was gonna be the next Zuckerberg, he said, grinning. Made like $7 and called himself an entrepreneur. Everyone laughed. My mom laughed the hardest. Rachel even wiped away a fake tear. I didn't say anything. But Tyler looked right at me, like he wanted to see if I'd take the bait. You ever try anything like that, Marcus? He asked. I heard you're into tech stuff. I shrugged. A little. He grinned wider. You should talk to this guy I know. He teaches coding to high schoolers. Pretty solid gig for people who can't break into real development jobs. Real jobs. Ouch. Rachel laughed. Not a polite laugh. A real one. I looked at my mom. Nothing. Not even a twitch of discomfort. So I smiled and said, sounds like a good backup plan. For someone like you. His smirk faltered, but he brushed it off. Nah, I'm good. I'm in finance. You know, real-world stuff. My dad actually chuckled. We could use more of that around here. That one hurt. It shouldn't have, but it did. I'd literally helped him set up a budgeting app last year. Automated half his finances. But sure. Tyler the finance bro was the real deal. I stayed quiet for the rest of the meal. Let them bask in their smug little echo chamber. But inside, my mind was racing. Because here's the thing. I'd Googled Tyler a few days earlier. Just a hunch I couldn't shake. And what I found, well, let's just say his version of finance was a little more creative than most people's. But I didn't say anything. Not yet. I waited. I let them talk. And then, right after dessert, Tyler opened his mouth again. And everything changed. Tyler leaned back, patted his stomach, and pushed his plate forward like some satisfied king. Our firm's launching a new algorithmic fund next quarter, he said. Cutting-edge stuff. You wouldn't believe how much back-end work I've had to manage. Back-end work. I twirled my fork between my fingers. Back-end work. He looked at me. Yeah. Quantitative models. Predictive analytics. Finance stuff. He chuckled like he'd just told a hilarious joke. Oh sure, I said. Sounds complex. It is, he said. You ever thought about getting into real business? Or are you still dreaming of coding in your pajamas at 2 a.m. drinking Red Bull? Rachel laughed like that was the funniest thing she'd ever heard. Tyler, stop, she said, even though she clearly didn't want him to. Marcus has always been more of a passion project kind of guy. My mom didn't laugh this time. But she gave me that tight-lipped, passive-aggressive parent stare that could suck the air out of a room. Marcus, she said, we've talked about this. You have to let people tease you sometimes. It's how we bond. I blinked. Tease? Or belittle? Her tone hardened. Don't make a scene. There it was. The phrase I'd heard 1,000 times growing up. Don't make a scene. Translation: don't make us look bad. Don't make us uncomfortable. Don't break the illusion. I sat back in my chair. I didn't realize being insulted at dinner was considered bonding. Tyler raised an eyebrow. It's all in good fun, buddy. No need to get defensive. I didn't respond. I just stared at him long enough for his cocky smirk to slip. Just for a second. My dad broke the tension. All right. Let's move on. Marcus, you doing anything interesting these days? He didn't really care. It was a lifeline disguised as small talk. A way to diffuse things. Working on a couple projects, I said vaguely. Keeping busy. Tyler snorted again. What kind of projects? Top secret. I looked at him. He didn't blink. He was trying to embarrass me again. Before I could answer, my mom sighed loudly. Like I was the problem. Please, Marcus, she said in her sad teacher voice. Can we not do this tonight? You're making things awkward. I froze. Everyone looked at me. I was making things awkward. Not Tyler, who'd been taking shots at me all night. Not Rachel, who smiled through every insult like it was open mic night. I felt something twist in my chest. Something old and heavy and bitter. The same feeling I used to get in high school when Rachel would throw a tantrum over something she did wrong and I'd get grounded for not being the bigger person. The same feeling I had when I got that full scholarship to a school 4 states away and my mom said, "You'll change your mind, sweetie. You don't want to leave your family, do you?" Like I was selfish for wanting my own life. I clenched my jaw. Sure, I said quietly. Let's not make things awkward. The conversation moved on. They laughed about mutual friends, vacations, someone's dog. I barely listened. Just nodded when necessary, sipped my water, kept my face neutral. But inside, a storm was building. Because this wasn't just about one dinner. This was years of silent resentment wrapped in fake smiles and forced laughter bubbling to the surface. Every time I was overlooked, dismissed, told to be quieter, smaller, more palatable. And now there was a shiny new golden boy at the table. One who could say whatever he wanted as long as he looked good doing it. Then came the moment. Dessert had been cleared. Store-bought cheesecake that my mom pretended she baked. The wine had done its work. Dad leaned back with a satisfied grunt. Rachel was scrolling through her phone, showing Tyler something on Instagram. Tyler suddenly looked up. I actually gave a talk on fintech disruption last week, he said casually. My team's been working with this new predictive analytics firm. Stream Start or something. Tiny little dev shop nobody's heard of, but they've got solid tech. We'll probably acquire their platform outright in a few months. I carefully set my glass down. Stream Start. Even. Yeah, Tyler said. You heard of them? What exactly is your role? I asked. He smiled. I'm kind of the guy who does the talking, you know? Front-facing. I smooth over the deals, make sure the numbers line up. Some of the execs don't like dealing directly with the code people. Gets too technical. The code people. I said it flatly. The code people. Yeah, he replied, clearly not catching my tone. No disrespect, but those guys aren't exactly business-minded. They're smart in their own way, just not built for the big table. The big table. I echoed him. The big table. Rachel smiled nervously, watching. My dad looked confused. My mom frowned. And Tyler kept going. Anyway, we'll definitely integrate their tools into our infrastructure. Maybe hire a couple of their devs if they can keep up. It's a win-win. I didn't say anything for a moment. I just reached into my pocket, slowly, and pulled out my phone. "What are you doing?" my mom asked sharply, her tone already accusing. I ignored her. Opened my email. Scrolled for a second. Found the one I was looking for. "Stream Start," I said. "That predictive analytics startup. The one your company's planning to acquire." Tyler narrowed his eyes. "Yeah." I held up the screen. "I own it." Silence. Dead. Heavy. Total silence. The room stopped like someone had hit pause on reality. Tyler's grin turned to confusion. Then to panic. My mom blinked. "What are you talking about?" I stood up slowly. Didn't raise my voice. Didn't change my tone. "StreamStart is my company," I said. "I founded it. Last year, we licensed our main product to 5 hedge funds. One of them is the firm you work for. I met with your department heads 5 times. But I never knew your name. Because you weren't in any of those meetings." Tyler went pale. His mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. Rachel looked like she'd just witnessed a car crash in real time. My dad sat up straighter. "Wait, what?" "I didn't say anything because I knew how this would go," I said. "I knew nobody would believe me. Because every time I tried to share something serious, you guys treated it like a phase. A joke. Something to roll your eyes at." My mom finally found her voice. "You're telling me you own a tech company? Since when?" I looked at her. "Since 4 years ago. But you never asked." Tyler stood up too. His confident energy replaced by something twitchy and nervous. "Look man, I didn't know, all right? If you had," I cut in, "you wouldn't have said half of what you said tonight. You probably wouldn't have said anything at all." He looked at Rachel like she was supposed to rescue him. She just stared at the table. I took one last look around the room. At the people who were supposed to be my family. There's a specific kind of silence that happens when people realize the version of you they created in their heads doesn't match reality. It's not the silence of reflection or remorse. It's the stunned, gaping silence of egos being rewritten in real time. That's what I saw at that table. Tyler's jaw clenched. My mom blinked like she'd been unplugged and rebooted. Rachel looked at me with a strange mix of shock, embarrassment, and something dangerously close to shame. And my dad just sat back. Like a man watching his house wobble on its foundation. I stood there. Phone in hand. Pulse racing. Heart pounding. Not from pride or revenge. But from years of pent-up words finally breaking free. From the sheer exhaustion of playing small for people who never once asked what I was actually up to when I disappeared into my room for hours. They always saw a kid with a laptop. Never a man with a plan. I could have gone for the throat right then. Could have explained in painful detail how much Tyler didn't know. How his firm had been underbidding us for weeks. How he hadn't even been in the meeting loop. But I didn't. Because something inside me, maybe the last sliver of the boy who once wanted to please everyone, told me it wasn't worth it. Not right now. So I just said it. The one statement that made the room implode. "I'm selling Stream Start. The deal closes Friday." My mom gasped. "You're what?" "It's been in the works for months," I said. "I signed the paperwork last week." Rachel blinked. "Wait. Like, selling? For how much?" I looked at her. That was all she needed to know. Tyler made a choking noise. "To who?" I looked at him. "Not your firm." And then I walked out. Didn't wait for dessert. Didn't say goodbye. Just left them sitting there in the dining room like mannequins frozen mid-conversation. I didn't sleep much that night. You'd think walking out like that would feel cathartic. And it did. But there was also something else. Something heavier. I kept replaying their faces. Their silence. The weight of all those years I spent hiding my success because I didn't want to be that guy. The arrogant tech bro. The, I made it and now I'm better than you, guy. I never wanted to rub anything in anyone's face. But they had no problem grinding me into the dirt. And now I had nothing left to prove to them. But here's the truth nobody talks about. Walking away doesn't mean you don't carry the bruises. In the days after the dinner, there were no texts. No calls. Not even a passive-aggressive, let's talk, from my mom. I half expected a guilt trip. Or a sudden flood of messages pretending it never happened. But there was just silence. And silence, I learned, can be lonelier than conflict. I didn't spiral or anything. I'm not gonna say I fell into some pit of despair. But I felt adrift. Like I'd snapped a rubber band that had been stretched too tight for too long, and now I didn't know what to do with the slack. Selling a company you built from the ground up is like dismantling your own house. You're pulling up floorboards, checking every corner, making sure no rotting beams remain. But it gave me structure, purpose. And then Friday came. I signed the final document at 9:42 a.m. Got a confirmation ping a minute later. Just like that, it was done. I stared at my laptop screen for a long time. My bank account showed a number that didn't feel real. Enough zeros to make my high school economics teacher proud. Enough to change my life 10 times over. But instead of celebrating, I closed my laptop and went for a walk. I ended up at this little coffee shop downtown. The one I used to work at in college. They still served burnt espresso and had the same wobbly table by the window. I sat there for about an hour, watching people walk by, wondering what came next. And then Rachel texted me. Hey, you around? I stared at it, thought about deleting it. But something in me, curiosity, maybe, or stupidity, typed back, yeah. She gave me an address. Not our parents' house. Her place. The apartment she'd been staying in since the divorce. I thought about it for a while. Then paid for my coffee, stood up, and walked there. She answered the door in sweatpants and a hoodie. No makeup. No performance. Just Rachel. The version I hadn't seen since we were kids sharing cereal before school. She didn't say anything for a second. Then, quietly, you wanna come in? I nodded. Her apartment was small, cluttered. Half-unpacked boxes in the corner. A neglected wine glass on the counter. She gestured to the couch. We sat. Look, she started. Her voice soft. I didn't know. About the company. About any of it. I stayed quiet. She fidgeted with the zipper of her hoodie. Tyler's. Well, you saw what he's like. After the divorce, I felt like he was this steady, confident guy. And I needed someone, you know. So you brought him to dinner to show him off? I said, raising an eyebrow. Her cheeks flushed. I didn't expect him to be such a jerk. And I didn't expect you to drop a nuclear bomb like that. I didn't plan to, I said. But he kept pushing. And nobody stopped him. Rachel exhaled. That's kind of how we are, huh? We perform. We keep up appearances. We don't rock the boat. I nodded. Yeah. And the boat's been sinking for years. She didn't answer for a while. Mom's freaking out, she finally said. Not just about what happened. About what she missed. She called me yesterday crying. Said she failed you somehow. I almost laughed. Now she notices. She's not great at apologies, Rachel said. She thinks if she ignores things long enough, they reset. Yeah, that sounds familiar. I'm not asking you to forgive her, she said. But maybe, just talk to her? She's not sleeping. And Dad keeps pretending everything's fine, but I heard him tell Uncle Ray you embarrassed the family. I looked at her. I embarrassed the family? She nodded, wincing. Yeah. Figures. We talked for a little longer. She apologized again. This time, not as a performance. It felt real, genuine, vulnerable. And I found myself softening a bit. Because despite everything, she was my sister. And maybe, just maybe, she was starting to see me as more than the family punching bag. I left without making any promises. I didn't text Mom. Didn't call Dad. Instead, I booked a trip. 2 weeks. No laptop. No work. No family. Just me, a cabin by the coast, and a lot of quiet time to figure out what I actually wanted. And you know what? It was the best thing I ever did. I hiked. I read books. I cooked for myself. I sat on the porch at night, listening to the wind. No judgment. No expectations. Just silence. And slowly, piece by piece, something inside me started to rebuild. Not with grand statements or Instagram quotes. Just in the quiet. I started thinking about what I wanted next. Not for money or prestige. But for myself. I'd already won the game. My family just had no idea I'd been playing. It was time to stop playing for them entirely. By the time I got back, I had a plan. Not for revenge. Not to prove them wrong. But for freedom. Of course, nothing stays quiet for long. Because when I got back, there was a letter waiting for me. No return address. Inside was a wedding invitation. Rachel and Tyler. And a handwritten note from my mom. We hope you'll come. Family is everything. Let's not let one dinner ruin that. I must have read it 5 times. Let's not let one dinner ruin that. Like it was just a minor hiccup. A little awkwardness to sweep under the rug with all the other things they'd conveniently forgotten. I held the invitation in one hand, the note in the other. And for a moment, I just stood there in my hallway, surrounded by that kind of stillness that screams. I wasn't angry. Not immediately. What I felt was colder, clearer. A sharp, piercing realization that the people who should have known me best didn't. Family is everything. That was rich. Because if family was everything, maybe they should have started treating me like something. I sat down at my kitchen counter, opened the invitation again, studied the details. The wedding was 3 months away. Garden ceremony. Formal attire. Dinner and dancing at some boutique venue about an hour and a half outside the city. RSVP by the end of the month. My name was written on the envelope in my mom's looping cursive. It felt personal. Like she hadn't been ignoring me for weeks after that dinner, only to resurface now that there were flower arrangements and guest lists to finalize. I set the invitation down, looked at the ceiling, and then I smiled. Not a smug smile. A quiet one. Because for the first time in a long time, I felt something new. Not bitterness. Not grief. Leverage. They wanted me at that wedding. Not because they missed me. Not because they'd had some sudden epiphany about how badly they'd treated me. No. They wanted the picture. The illusion. They wanted to be able to tell their church friends, oh yes, the whole family was there. Marcus too. They wanted me to play the part. Wear the suit. Shake hands. Pretend everything was normal so their house of cards wouldn't collapse. And I had no intention of giving them that. Not for free. So I started digging. I called in a favor from an old contact. A cybersecurity guy I'd worked with a couple years back. His name was Derek. You want me to background check a finance bro, he said, amused. I want to know who I'm dealing with, I replied. Off the books. 2 days later, he sent me a file. It wasn't incriminating. Not in a criminal sense. But it was illuminating. Tyler had changed jobs more than anyone in my family realized. He'd bounced between firms, advisory roles, random consulting gigs that never seemed to last longer than 6 months. He'd failed upward on charisma and connections. He wasn't senior management at his current firm. He was in sales. Not strategy. Not analytics. Which wasn't necessarily bad. But it made everything he'd said at dinner sound a lot hollower. More importantly, he had a history of bad investments. Real estate. Crypto. A few e-commerce ventures that never got past the planning stage. He wasn't broke. But he wasn't the powerhouse he pretended to be either. That explained a lot. I saved the file. For later. And I RSVP'd yes to the wedding. The wedding day arrived like the final act of a play everyone had rehearsed but didn't fully understand. The venue was exactly what I expected. Tastefully extravagant. White flowers everywhere. Gold-trimmed invitations. A jazz trio playing softly near the garden entrance. I arrived in a sleek rental car. Dark gray. Professional. I walked in alone. Found my seat. Second row. Right behind close family. My mom saw me. Gave me a brittle smile. Dad nodded stiffly. Rachel didn't look at me once as she walked down the aisle. Her hand gripping a bouquet. Her gaze fixed on the altar. Tyler, to his credit, looked every bit the charming groom. Clean-cut tux. Subtle cufflinks. Unwavering confidence. The ceremony was short. Mostly fluff. A few tears from my aunt. Some overly long personal vows that sounded suspiciously AI-generated. Then came the reception. Tables arranged with personalized place cards. A choreographed first dance. A menu that mentioned which farm the chickens came from. My mom gave a toast about love and resilience and building a future together. My dad followed with a slightly awkward but heartfelt statement about welcoming Tyler into the family. I waited. I watched. And then, just as dessert was being served, when the wine had settled and the guests were relaxed and smiling, I stood up. "Can I say a few words?" I asked, tapping a spoon against my glass. The room turned. The MC stopped. Looked at my mom, who looked frozen. Tyler grinned. Hard. "Of course, man. Go ahead." I walked up to the microphone. "Thanks," I said. "I'll keep this short. I just wanted to say how happy I am for my sister. Rachel, you look beautiful. I don't say it enough, but you've always been one of the strongest people I know." She blinked. Caught off guard. Nodded hesitantly. Unsure where this was going. I turned to Tyler. "And Tyler, I gotta admit, I wasn't sure about you at first. But over the past few weeks, I've done some research. Looked into your background. Your investments. Your side projects." The mood shifted. Laughter faded. Heads tilted. Tyler straightened. "What are you?" I raised a hand. "It's okay. I'm not here to ruin anything. I'm just here to tell the truth." I pulled out my phone. Connected it to the projector the venue had set up for the photo slideshow. The screen blinked to life. I opened a PDF. Investor Communications. Credence Coin 2021 to 2023. Another file. Screenshots of Tyler's forum posts under his alias. And finally, a short video clip. A recorded Zoom pitch where Tyler promised guaranteed returns to a group of naive investors. His face. His voice. His words. Silence. I let it play for 20 seconds. Then paused it. "Tyler's been running a low-level Ponzi scheme for the past 2 years, I said calmly. "It's not big enough to make headlines. But it's enough to ruin people. Friends. Family. Anyone who trusted him." Faces turned. Twisted. My uncle muttered something to my dad, who went sheet white. Rachel stood there, gripping her bouquet like a weapon. "Marcus," she whispered. "What is this?" "It's what I tried to tell you," I said. "Softer now. He's not who he says he is. I wanted to warn you sooner. But I needed proof. Tyler stepped toward me. You little. I've already submitted this to the SEC, I said, pulling out another sheet of paper. This is just a courtesy. His face drained of color. But you know what's really sad? I asked, turning back to the crowd. It's not just the fraud. It's that nobody in this family wanted to believe I could be right. That I could have value beyond being the quiet one. I looked at my mom. Her hands trembled around her champagne glass. But today, I chose not to be quiet. Today, I chose truth over comfort. And I think you all needed to see it. I stepped away from the microphone. Tyler was frozen. Rachel looked like the ground had been ripped from under her. The wedding coordinator stood at the side of the room, pale and twitching. Then my mom stood up. Marcus, we need to talk. I'm done talking, I said. You only listen when it's convenient. Rachel's voice cracked. Marcus, wait. Why now? I turned to her. Because you deserve better. Even if you couldn't see it. And then I walked out. I learned later that Tyler was brought in for questioning that same week. The SEC had apparently been circling for months. My documentation gave them the last piece they needed. He tried to lawyer up, tried to claim it was all a misunderstanding. But the evidence was overwhelming. Forum posts, bank records, testimonies from people he'd scammed. The guy who acted so confident at dinner? He crumbled under actual scrutiny. Rachel annulled the marriage within a month. I heard through the grapevine that she was mortified, embarrassed. But you know what? I think it was the wake-up call she needed. Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom to realize you've been living a lie. My parents were radio silent for a while. Then, about 6 weeks later, a card arrived in the mail. Just a plain white envelope with my address written in my mom's handwriting. No return address. Inside, a blank card. Completely blank. No message. No apology. Just emptiness. I stared at it for a long time, trying to figure out what it meant. Was it an olive branch? An admission of guilt? Or just another cop-out? Their way of acknowledging what happened without actually taking responsibility. I threw it away. Because here's what I realized. Some endings don't need closure. Some relationships don't deserve another chance. And some people will never give you the apology you deserve, no matter how badly they screwed up. For years, I tried to make them see me. Really see me. I stayed quiet, played small, convinced myself that if I just didn't rock the boat, maybe they'd finally appreciate me. But they never did. And they never would have. Because they didn't want to see the real me. They wanted the version they'd created in their heads, the struggling kid who needed their guidance, their pity, their judgment. Walking away from that wedding wasn't just about exposing Tyler. It was about freeing myself from their expectations. From the exhausting performance of trying to be enough for people who would never think I was. And you know what the crazy part is? I don't regret any of it. Not the company I built in secret. Not the years of silence. Not even that brutal dinner confrontation. Because all of it led me here. To a place where I finally understand my worth. Where I don't need their validation to know I made it. Do I miss having a family? Sometimes. There are moments, holidays, birthdays, random Tuesday nights, when I feel that ache. That loneliness that comes from cutting ties with the people who raised you. But then I remember that dinner. I remember Tyler's smirk. My mom's dismissive tone. Rachel's fake laugh. My dad's silence. And I remember that the family I lost wasn't really a family at all. It was a performance. A carefully constructed illusion that only worked as long as everyone played their part. I refused to play mine anymore. These days, I'm building something new. Not a company this time, but a life. One where I'm surrounded by people who actually see me. Who value me. Who don't need me to be small so they can feel big. I'm traveling more, meeting new people, investing in projects I care about. And for the first time in my life, I'm not hiding my success. I'm not downplaying my achievements or pretending to be less than I am. Because I finally learned the most important lesson: you can't make people respect you. You can only respect yourself enough to walk away from those who don't. Some endings are messy. Some are loud. Some are dramatic explosions that leave everyone reeling. But mine was quiet, clean. Like the sound of a door finally closing behind you. Like the first breath you take when you step outside after being trapped in a suffocating room for years. And sometimes, that silence, that peaceful, powerful silence, is the loudest victory of all. So if you're out there right now, dealing with people who make you feel small, who dismiss your dreams, who laugh at your ambitions while pretending it's all in good fun, hear me when I say this. You don't owe them your silence. You don't owe them your smallness. And you sure as hell don't owe them a seat at your table when you finally make it. Walk away. Build your empire. And when they finally realize what they lost, don't waste your energy on revenge. Just close the door. And never look back.